So, how are you, Nonku?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Look,
Mm.
before we start the session, let me just take this opportunity to say thank you for taking your time and spending it with us today and actually trying to contribute a bit of value into our lives and, contribute to our careers.
Mm. Yep, I'm with you. No, look, thank you for having me and trying to work around my schedule because it gets a bit busy. So that my
Yeah.
door will probably keep opening and closing. But it is that time of the morning, and this is like the only chance I have because I'm gonna have it's Wednesday, so we have it's one of my underground days today, so it's gonna be a long day underground, and I'm afraid
Mm.
I'll come out late. So this is probably the best time that we can do this.
Okay, no problem, not at all. And I'm happy to work around your schedule anyway. So,
Okay.
to start with the interview, I'd say, would you just please tell us who you are? I know who you are, but maybe someone else doesn't know. Would you just please tell us who you are and briefly take us through your journey from the time you started actually university and to the time where you are right now?
All right. So it's not very complicated. I'm just Nunku. So I was born in Pumalanga, but I grew up in KZN primarily. Matriculated in 2004. But what's actually very interesting is that I actually applied for this bursary with Impala. I was still in grade 11. I think I was just very eager to leave home. But I applied for a bursary, and Impala sponsored me to study mining engineering. So I studied at Wits, a 4-year degree, which I finished in 5 because I was messing around and I flunked rock mechanics. So I did that for 2 years, which was very interesting. I then graduated end of 2009. I then started working, and I was employed as a mining engineer in training at the time with Impala in 2010. That meant I moved to Rustenburg and my life started somewhat. And I then started with a graduate program. So, you go through the technical services departments, get the blasting, get the exposure. First, that took some time. I think it was when our blasting was transitioning from the old one to this new MQA system, which took forever. So
Yeah.
eventually I got my blasting ticket. So when I got my blasting ticket, sort of when my careers really started taking shape, because then now you're a miner, you're taking charge of like a group of people, ne? And I
Mhm.
was working at one of the biggest shafts at Impala at the time. It was still a flagship, very big, doing something like 10,000 tons per day.
Mm.
So it was massive, and I was just very small and feeling overwhelmed most of the time. I mined for about just under 2 years. Then I started shadowing as a shift supervisor. Eventually, I was given a section. So I grew up in what you would call white areas, say, portions which they had mined and left. Then we go back, reopen mine again. And then eventually, I was appointed as a mine overseer at the same shaft, eh? And I was a mine overseer for another, it was just about 2.5 years, almost 3 years. I was a mine overseer, then started acting as a manager. I was appointed as a section manager on that same shaft. So there was a 3-1, then there was me 261. I did that for about a year. Then eventually last year, March, I was appointed as a 3-1, as a production manager on the same shaft. So then late
Mm.
last year, I then moved to where I am now. I'm at a project shaft, at Capital Shaft, where I'm appointed for the bottom mine at 16 Shaft. So in a nutshell, that's been that's been my career, 10 years, and here we are.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a very impressive, very, very impressive trajectory. I think it would be very inspiring for anyone who'd like to go via the production route.
Yeah.
Um, Look, I think first I'd just like to discuss some of your years in university. I think I
Yeah.
know it's quite a few years ago, but I would like to ask you, what was your biggest takeaway from the years you spent in university?
Takeaway. Yes, Varsity is blurry. It's over 10 years ago. I think so. Those years for me were probably the best years of my life. I enjoyed myself thoroughly, immensely. I made friends there, people who are still my friends today. There was a group of us who finished together or around about the same time, then moved to Rustenburg. They are still my friends today. So I made friends there, and we've been friends now for about 15 years odd. So I think my biggest takeaway was just how diverse and how big and small this world is. And how you meet a person and it seems insignificant, and 10 years later we walk into a boardroom and we know each other from somewhere. So forging relationships, I think that was one of my biggest takeaways. And it's only in later years, I think, when you value the degree itself, to say, actually, I went to Wits. This is kind of a big deal that you did, and you see that it earns you a seat on some tables where if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be sort of welcome. The conversation, the way we're taught to think. I see that we are different from the other graduates who went to the other mining schools. So diversity is one. I can say, and also just the quality of education. It becomes very apparent at some point that there's a distinct difference between Wits graduates and the rest.
All right. No, thank you for that answer. And I believe back then in the day, there were some very serious student organizations. And I believe maybe one of these organizations is what they call SMEs. Were you part of that? And do you see value in students actually participating in organizations of that nature?
I do. So SMEs, I was very involved in SMEs from a young age, whether I was on the sidelines or in the committee. So in my final year, I was in one of two entertainment officers. That's why I enjoyed varsity, best times of my life. But I see value because, in retrospect, sometimes we learn skills, and at the time you see it seems insignificant. You're just there. My job is to organize a party and to make sure that everyone has a good time and to make sure that the venue is sorted, and afterwards it's clean and it's back to whatever state it needs to be in. At the time, it seemed insignificant, but I am 100% sure that, that period in my life added value and helped shape me for the position that I'm in. So I still have to manage resources now, whether it's people or material or whatever. I still have to manage resources, make sure that targets are met. So in hindsight, actually, and I've never actually thought about it, is the fact that I had to work in a team. We had to deliver, whether it was a gig or the miners' ball or whatever it was, we had to work it as a team and deliver. And those skills from a very young age, because it's like a long time ago now, from a very young age, they were sort of then taught to me, and in later years entrenched, and probably made it easier for me to fall into this role that I'm currently in. So I think it's very important for students to get involved in societies or in organizations like that, because you get to meet a lot of different people. It gets to teach you to work in a team, because very few people, I think, operate in isolation. Doesn't matter what industry or what kind of job you eventually find yourself in. It opens you up to other things and people. That kind of experience you can only get if you are in a group of people. So, and you get to make friends more than anything. I recently, someone asked me what advice would I give to graduates, matrics who are going into varsity, and I was like, have fun, meet people, forge relationships. That's really what it is about. The other stuff you will learn, open yourself, learn, and eventually you'll get to industry and really learn even more. But it's the time to learn, open yourself up, meet people, integrate yourself. In hindsight, you'll be learning skills that you're aware that you'll even need them at in a later time. So get involved, eh?
All right. No, thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. And I'm glad. I'm really happy actually that you are part of a SMES committee and EO. All right. All right.
Good times, man.
Yeah. So I'd also like to know, were you always a very confident person like you are now, or you weren't? And if you weren't, what did you do to actually build up your confidence to the level it currently takes?
So this thing is about perception. So you're sitting there, you're like, oh, she's super confident, and I guess I am, but it's I think it's being comfortable. So when you're much younger, there's a lot of insecurities, especially us ladies. There's a lot of insecurities. You're unsure about your sort of place in the world, and as you grow older, and you start to establish yourself, you become a little bit more confident. Now I'm sure of who Nonku is. There's very few things which can phase me about what I want or don't want, yeah? And also, I think the experiences that I've had, both in my personal life and also at work, it then adds to sort of building a person's character. The position that I'm in currently requires me to be confident. If I come across as flimsy, then or compromise in any way, then it does become questionable. So I think it's experience more than anything. I really did avail myself for the job at a very young age. So that meant I learned at a young age things that I was unsure about. You stop and you ask, and once if you're conversant about a subject matter, you are technically confident because you know exactly what it is that you are talking about. So I think it's definitely come with age, it's come with experience, it's come with learning, it's come with making mistakes and getting up and not sort of bashing myself and thinking I won't make it. There were times when I thought I wouldn't make it, but somehow by the grace of God I did. I'm here, I'm still standing. So the older you grow, the more these things come, the more experienced you are, the more settled you become in who you are and in what you bring to the table, without necessarily needing outside stimuli to sort of prop you up all the time to say, yes, you're doing well. You're doing well. You're comfortable. You're comfortable when you're not doing well, and you sort of pick yourself up and you carry on. So it's a journey. I don't think you say I'm confident. I don't think I've arrived or anything. I'm still continuing, being better, making myself better, honing in my skills and so on, and becoming a better human all around.
Yeah. All right. It makes perfect sense what you just said. I think now I'd like to actually zoom into your career.
Yeah.
And I actually read some career advice you gave to students on the WUMIA Facebook page. You spoke about the experience you gain in the workplace being unmatched by what you learn in the university. Could you just please briefly elaborate a bit on that?
So I think, like I said, I value my degree, but what it really did for me more than anything is that it opened the door for me. It didn't necessarily earn me a seat at the table. And what I mean by that is that I had to then come to the operation, to come to the mine and learn that it's not necessarily just the technical skills, which is what is going to get you to the next level. I had to learn how to work with people. I had to learn how to work with people who look different from me. I'm much younger than most of my peers. I'm much younger than most of the people who are in the role that I'm in. So you can imagine the people I'm in charge of, they range, some of them are old enough to be my dad, for example. So I had to learn to work with much older people, black people, white people, yellow people, orange people. I had to learn to work with females, much older ones, much younger ones. And it is actually if you can grasp the personal skill and you can the personal skill or the people skills, and you can grasp the technical skill, and you can combine those two things well, is what will actually make you successful. So we're not necessarily taught to deal with a lot of things. I mean, I had to come here and deal with when AMCU came in, for example, the new one of the trade unions came in and the one left the mine. I had to deal with issues around that, and I wasn't necessarily taught that at school. You learn that on site. That's on the job training. I had to deal with how I manage up, because I also have bosses, how I relate to my peers without necessarily compromising myself or compromising that kind of relationship. I had to manage a large number of people. So yes, the degree is great. It will get you into the right rooms, but what will sort of keep you is, so what I like about mining, if I may, is that if you don't know what you're talking about, you become apparent very quickly. But if you do have the experience and you've applied yourself to the job, you are able to then express yourself and be heard and be heard properly without necessarily compromising yourself in any way. So what experience gives you is unmatched with the degree, because it brings all of these elements together and it makes you a well-rounded miner. At the end of the day, I'm a miner, and what I do is I have resources which I must channel, and I must make my targets, and that is what I'm talking about. That's where the experience comes in. That's why it's important to come into industry, earn your stripes. Mine if you must mine, be a supervisor, be a mine captain. There's very few things that my mine captains, for example, right now can say to me, because I was a mine captain for 3 years and I saw a lot. So I was exposed to so much that I am able to manage a group of mine overseers now. That's really what I was talking about there. That's where experience is critical. So many of us come into industry with our nice shiny degrees, and I want the corner office. And they give you the corner office, and you are running an operation like the one I'm sitting on right now. It's about 5,500 people. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll become apparent very quickly that you have got no clue. But if you've put in the time and you've got the experience and you've learned how to deal with different stakeholders and how you pull all of these elements together and make informed decisions, because remember, we make decisions which affect the livelihood of people. So whatever decisions I make, I need to have that at the back of my mind, that people, I take them down to wherever they're supposed to go work for that day. They come out, they go back to their families, they are safe. At the end of the month, their livelihoods are secured, and that's really primarily what I meant.
Oh, all right. No, thank you so much. You've put it in a very clear way to understand. I think my next question now would be, what's the importance of mentorship, and has it played any positive role in taking your career to where it is today?
I think it's very important. Look, so at a young age, I didn't see the value in it, and in hindsight, that's one of the things which I always say to even my current mentees, and I see that they sort of approached me just when they joined Impala. It became apparent that I did need mentorship. I think when I hit sort of mine overseer level, because the dynamics changed so much almost when I transitioned from being a supervisor into that office. It's played a very important role, because it is always great, I think, to have a sounding board that you can use when issues arise and you honestly just don't know what to do. Have someone who is experienced that you can use as a sounding board, like I said. It does get very stressful, so you need someone who can sort of guide you. As young people, we sometimes get very emotional, and unfortunately, the minds are still very clear on sort of like a hierarchy, who's who. I've got a boss, and my boss has a boss, and it's very, very clear. Those distinctions are clear, and we're not always taught that. you relate to each level in the hierarchy, and mentorship then comes in and can help you sort of navigate the choppy waters, because there is times when it gets very, very difficult. I mean, even at this level where I am, I still have a conversation with my mentor, and you would think that these things, maybe I would have sorted them out in the earlier years, but they still keep creeping up even at this level. So it's very important to have someone, especially someone who's experienced in the field that you're in. But I also suggest that someone who's not necessarily in your field, who can sort of be a bit more objective and have another perspective that people in industry don't always have, because they're sort of in the trenches with you. But it is very important to have someone. It's important to have support more than anything, especially in this job that we are in. It's not always, you know, roses and butterflies. It does get quite stressful at times, and you need a sounding board, and you need support.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you so much. I think you've also perfectly answered that question. Next question being, look, the industry is not doing as well as it used to do. The university graduate output is greater than the rate at which the industry is absorbing graduates. So now, just wanted to know what it is that you think graduate students should do in their time. Not graduate students, actually students. What is it that they should do during their university time to make themselves at a better position to be absorbed by the industry when they actually leave?
I think in anything, you need to sort of position yourself for where you want to go. So a lot of us, I mean, I remember when I was still a student and I used to come to the operation for VAC work. I used to come here and mess around, and I didn't really add any value or be or position myself to sort of be be absorbed, let me say. And I'm saying this, that we become, if you want people to take you seriously, you need to position yourself. So you can't, for example, come to VAC work and you don't come to work some days, or you come to work intoxicated, or you're not dressed properly, you don't present yourself properly. So that's one advice that I think I would give, that when you are ever on the operation, you know, dress properly, dress for the job, position yourself to be well received by the people who are on the operation. Because remember, first impressions count. You know, if the memory that they have of me is someone who is not at work, someone who's not dressed properly, someone who is who's disrespectful, even when you graduate, no one would want to have you on the operation. So that's one advice. I think whenever you are on the operation, carry yourself in such a way that it leaves a good impression, it leaves a good taste in people's mouths. There's this perception that has existed that graduates, you know, we don't want to work. We want top ranking positions from the onset without necessarily being experienced. And it is up to us to sort of change the narrative. That is why I do have some graduates, for example, in my section. I'm probably hard on them more than anyone, because I don't want ever anyone to attach this notion that graduates don't want to work. They don't say graduates don't want to work. They don't just say Nonku doesn't want to work. They say all graduates don't want to work. So it then paints everyone with a bad brush. So that's one thing. Another thing is, you know, when we do have conferences like this, unfortunately this is online, or seminars or anything that's hosted in the university, attend those kind of things, networking sessions, so that you put yourself out there. And please, I don't mean put yourself out there and compromise yourself. Put yourself out there, be involved. Everybody loves a team player, so don't just sort of isolate yourself and sit in a corner. But put yourself out there, get to know people, introduce yourself. If you introduce yourself, like I will never forget Mzwandile Kulu, because now your name is going to be somewhere in the back of my mind. Even if I meet you in a couple of years, I will remember that I had an interview with Mzwandile at some point. And your general exchange with me has made a good impression. So it's not like when I hear the name, then it brings up sort of bad memories or anything like that. So the way we interact, the way we behave when we're at work, even if it's for a short period of time, there is someone watching all the time. So it is important that you present yourself as someone one would want to have on their team. And it is unfortunate, industry is not doing well. I think we're all under immense pressure. I mean, there's some operations which didn't start up even after the national lockdown. That's how difficult things are right now. But in all things, I think it's important that if one's mind is set on being in production, getting into the mines, and even though things might not be coming together right now, it's important that you sort of, in Afrikaans say bait fast, just hold on, and it will eventually turn around at some point. We can't be most of the commodity prices are actually coming up, so we can't be on a downward trend forever. Eventually it will turn around and you will get your chance to join us.
Thank you so much. You answered that again very nicely. Look, it actually ties into what we had an interview with Nonkululeko Mabuza.
Oh yes.
Yes, we had an interview with her last week. It actually ties into what she said about graduates. Like she spoke about being well presented as a graduate, yeah, being well spoken, actually showing up to work, and it actually ties into that, which was going to be my next question. So I think, let me ask you this question as well. What is it exactly that stands out in a graduate from a graduate student who's working? What is it that actually raises an eyebrow on you and says, look, this person is committed, he's got potential. I'd like to work with this person and actually shape their career going forward?
I think first and foremost, it's always presentation. So if you're gonna come to work, if the first time you step into my office and your pants are sagging and you're not wearing a belt and you're wearing a round tee and you just, you don't look presentable, it already makes me question sort of if you're going to fit into this industry. So presentation is one. A person's commitment to the job becomes apparent very quickly based on the small tasks, sort of day-to-day stuff that let's say it's a graduate who's coming to me looking for a section to be a shift supervisor, for example. I'm just using an example, or even if it's still maybe sort of lower level. And there's day-to-day tasks that person must complete. If the small things, if they cannot commit to delivering or cannot deliver the small things, there's bigger tasks that then come with the job that I know that I can then not rely on this person. If you set up a meeting and you say to me, you're going to be here at 7 and you are here at 9, it says something. So it's the small things. How do you present yourself? How do you express yourself? How do you how you work with other people? Because remember, if you come talk to me and you pitch yourself at a level where I feel you don't necessarily understand your place in the hierarchy, because there is a very clear hierarchy. I won't even lie about that. There's certain conversations I can't get involved in. For example, if it's my general manager and the chief executive having a conversation and I want to just sort of barge in, there's a certain demeanor that I think is needed, depending on where you are, that then sort of earns you a right to sit with the big people around the table. So I'm not saying sort of shrink yourself. please, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the way you present yourself, your commitment from the onset, it cannot, you cannot you cannot fluctuate. If you are in it, you are in it, you are present for it. It means that the hours are long, for example. It means you won't get to do what some of your friends are doing on a Saturday because you need to come into work. It means sometimes you knock off and you have to come back for the next shift if or if your work or your section is struggling. So presentation, commitment, for me, sort of sit very, very, very high up. Whether you respect, if you respect yourself most of the time, you then are able to respect other people. Treating people with respect is sort of also very high on my list. A young graduate coming in and being disrespectful to an RDO just because he's an RDO but he's a much older gentleman. You know, do you treat people with respect? It's also very, very important. So presentation is everything, eh? How you present yourself, how are you received? Do we just come in and you just over the top and you yeah, so I think yeah, presentation, respect, and a person general treating of other people.
All right. No, thank you again for that response. I think I've exhausted all of my questions.
You see my door opening and closing. It's time.
Yeah, thank you for spending time. Thank you for spending time with us. I think for the last bit of the interview, I'd just like you to give a bit of advice to women, actually. What would you have to say to mining engineering students who are women, graduates who are women? What are the challenges and how to overcome these challenges going forward to progress their careers?
So what I'd like to say is, yes, we need more ladies to come and stay in production. So what is currently happening is like there's a lot who come in and then leave and go into sort of technical services space. It's not easy. I won't lie and make it rosy. It's not easy. It is challenging somewhat. Everything is higher, it's hotter, it's heavier. But I promise you, if you commit yourself to the job, especially in the early years, learn as much as you can. And this is not necessarily just for the females. This is for all graduates who come in. You learn from a young age. Apply yourself to the task at hand. Open yourself up to learning from the wealth of knowledge and experience that is in the people that you will come into contact with. Everyone is there to teach you. There's some certain, and not everyone will accept you, hey? So even if they don't like you and you know that, okay, this person doesn't necessarily like me, learn whatever you learn from them, learn what to do, learn what not to do. From a young age, learn from everyone, learn. That for me is very important, especially for young graduates coming in. For ladies specifically, is that you will have an opportunity to sort of set the tone to how males relate to you. If you have clear boundaries from the onset about why is it that you are here, what you came to achieve, and you set those boundaries and you make them very apparent, then it will sort of become entrenched in, this is who this individual is, this is what we can say around her, this is what we cannot say around her. So there are a lot of jokes, coarse jokes which were made when I was still very young, jokes laced with like sexual innuendo, and if I had kept quiet, then those who were with me then would have thought it was okay, and then they just carry on and it's just Nonku, she's fine. But you put your foot down to what you accept, to what you don't accept from a very young age. That then shapes how you are then treated as you carry on in your career. there will be males from senior positions, who make advances at you. But remember, what the same degree that they have, you have now, and the only thing you are actually doing is working towards getting experience, getting your tickets, and eventually getting into these positions. So it took me 10 years to get to where I am. There are certain individuals who were mine managers 10 years ago when I was still starting out, and now we are peers and we sit around the table. So you don't owe anyone any favors. You don't have to compromise yourself to make it ahead. If you feel stuck and the only way out is in any way compromising yourself, it's definitely then not your way. You just have to wait your turn, put your head down, do the work. Become so good that whatever organization you are in has got no choice but to sort of psych you up to the next to sort of absorb you into the next level. Don't ever compromise yourself to get ahead. If you do that, you will climb the ranks, but at some point you will become exposed, because it will become apparent that you don't have the technical know-how, number one, to be able to deal with whatever situation that will arise, and you don't have the interpersonal skills to deal with whatever situations that arise. So make decisions that will make you sleep better at night, that will make you comfortable in who you are. You don't compromise yourself. Honestly, it's not worth it. These things, they happen in their time. You climb up the ranks in your time. The right people will recognize you for your skill at the right time. And what if you are really good at what you do, and someone somewhere will see, and you will be absorbed to the next level. The degree is great. It will get you into the door, but what will earn you a seat around the table, any table, and remember, there's different tables, different ranks, different tables. What will earn you a seat around any table is gonna be your technical know-how. It's gonna be your interpersonal skills. It's gonna be your experience. It's gonna be your you making your targets, your commitment from a young age, understanding where you fit in, bringing a fresh mind to the table. So many things in our industry has been done the same way it's been done, especially in hard rock. We need fresh minds to help us think. We've sort of become part of the furniture, so we need fresh minds. So don't be afraid to voice your opinion, but always back it up with technical skill, with good demeanor. Just be an all-rounder, and any organization will probably be very lucky to have you.
All right. No, thank you again. Thank you very much for your time, Nonku. I can hear the bangs on your door from where I am. I can see it's quite busy for you. It's quite busy for you. And again, I'd just like to thank you. I know you're always at work, and you've decided that this was also important to spend your time with.
Definitely,
so, yeah. For that, I'm definitely grateful, and I know a lot of the students in Mining Engineering Society will also be grateful, and they'll be very happy to see you again, because I know for a lot of them, actually, you inspire confidence, and they see themselves in you.
I appreciate that. I really do. I really do. No, thank you very much for having me, Zandile, and for giving me the platform to be able to share my expertise, or my experiences more than anything. It's my experiences and some of my pitfalls, I think, at a younger age, which has shaped me to who I am. It took time to get to where I am, but I'm glad it took as long as it did, because then I'm this individual that can now at least impart some of that to the next generation and encourage them to stay. It's a great industry to be in. I can't actually imagine myself doing anything different right now. So thank you very much for the opportunity, for allowing me to share the little bit that I have learned over the years with those who will be joining us in industry soon.